There are men who fit the mold, and there are men who walk away from it. Society has spent years sketching the outlines of masculinity, loud confidence, relentless competition, the need to be seen. But somewhere in the quiet shadows, a different kind of man exists. One who doesn't raise his voice to be noticed, one who doesn't need the spotlight to validate his worth. These men are often called Sigma males. Now, the term itself is debated. Some dismiss it as internet mythology, while others use it as shorthand for an archetype they have witnessed but struggled to define. However you frame it, there are certain habits and traits that consistently surface when you pay attention to men who live outside the usual hierarchy. What makes these men so unusual is not that they're strong or intelligent or capable. Plenty of men can be those things. What makes them strange is the way they express it. Their traits often appear paradoxical, even contradictory. They value solitude, yet they can hold a room without effort. They reject authority, but they command respect. They seem detached, but the moment they speak, it's as though they've been paying attention all along. When you observe them closely, you'll find that some of their behaviors don't just stand out, they make you stop and say, "Wait, what?" Because they run so counter to what we expect from men or even from human nature itself. These are not flashy traits. They're subtle, sometimes almost invisible until you experience them firsthand. And yet, they explain why Sigma males appear so mysterious, why others are often unsettled around them, and why their presence leaves such a lasting impression. In this video, we'll walk through 6 of the strangest Sigma male traits, quirks that may seem puzzling at first glance, but reveal an underlying pattern of deep self-possession. Take your time with each one. Listen closely, because the value of these insights isn't in rushing through them, but in letting them unfold slowly. Number 1, they can disappear without explanation. Most people are wired to stay connected, to constantly update their circles with what they're doing, where they've been, and who they're with. Social visibility has almost become a currency in modern culture, reinforced by social media, where likes and attention function as a kind of validation. But Sigma males move differently. They don't view withdrawal as isolation or rejection. They see it as recalibration. Unlike others who may feel anxious when detached from the crowd, a Sigma finds strength in these intervals of silence. For him, solitude is not a punishment to endure. It is oxygen to breathe. This tendency is not mere preference, but has deep psychological and even evolutionary underpinnings. Studies in psychology show that solitude, when chosen intentionally, can enhance self-reflection, creativity, and mental clarity. Neuroscientists have discovered that time away from constant stimulation activates the brain's default mode network, a system that allows for deep thought, memory consolidation, and problem solving. In history, many great thinkers, Nietzsche, Newton, and even Jesus during his 40 days in the wilderness, retreated into solitude before emerging with clarity and renewed purpose. What seems like avoidance on the surface is in fact a process of internal sharpening. For the Sigma male, this rhythm of disappearing and reappearing is natural. He can go weeks, even months, without feeling compelled to explain his absence. When he returns, it is without apology, because his value is not measured by his availability, but by his essence. This contrasts sharply with extroverted archetypes, who often draw energy from constant interaction. The Sigma, instead, operates more like a monk warrior, balancing withdrawal with impactful presence. When he re-enters social spaces, he brings with him insights, perspectives, and energy forged in solitude, making his presence both rare and impactful. In a world that often mistakes constant activity for productivity, the Sigma reminds us that stepping back can sometimes be the most powerful step forward. By withdrawing, he isn't abandoning his world, he is strengthening his place in it. This is why his silence feels intentional rather than accidental. People may notice his absence, but when he returns, they realize he has been paying attention in ways others rarely do. His solitude isn't about being unseen, it's about seeing more clearly. Number 2, they refuse to play status games. Where others measure their worth through titles, possessions, or social media followers, a Sigma male operates differently. He disengages from these external markers, not out of disdain, but from a deep understanding that true value cannot be quantified by numbers or status symbols. In psychology, this behavior aligns with intrinsic motivation, the drive to act based on inner values and personal growth rather than external validation. A Sigma doesn't scramble for recognition in a crowded room because his sense of self isn't tethered to applause. He knows that if he has something meaningful to contribute, it will eventually be recognized without the need for self-promotion. This mindset reflects the old proverb, "A lion does not need to roar to be a lion." Instead of fighting for a higher seat at the table, the Sigma is content to build a table of his own. This is not rebellion for rebellion's sake, but rather a refusal to accept the rules of a game that doesn't resonate with his values. History is filled with such figures. Nikola Tesla, for example, was often overlooked in favor of more flamboyant contemporaries like Thomas Edison, yet his solitary brilliance laid the foundation for modern electricity and wireless technology. Similarly, writers like Henry David Thoreau chose isolation and independence. Crafting works such as that continue to shape ideas of freedom and individuality. These men didn't clamor for a reserved seat in society's banquet hall. They built their own spaces where their ideas could thrive. This refusal to compete in conventional arenas often confuses people. Human beings are naturally social creatures, conditioned to strive for dominance and approval within hierarchies. From evolutionary psychology, we know that group acceptance once determined survival, which is why competition and status remain deeply ingrained in human behavior. Yet the Sigma disrupts this expectation. He doesn't reject people, but he sidesteps the game of one-upmanship that so many play. His detachment can be unsettling, even intimidating, because it exposes how much others depend on external validation. When someone doesn't crave approval, they suddenly hold a quiet power, an independence that's hard to control or influence. What's truly fascinating is that this independence often draws people in rather than pushing them away. Ironically, by refusing to chase attention, the Sigma often ends up commanding it. His self-sufficiency radiates an energy of authenticity that feels rare in a world obsessed with appearances. And while others may spend their lives trying to climb ladders built by someone else, the Sigma demonstrates that freedom lies not at the top of the hierarchy, but outside of it entirely, where one can build, create, and live by their own design. Number 3, they hold eye contact longer than normal. It unsettles people because it doesn't come with the usual cues of charm or flirtation. A Sigma's gaze, or the way he listens, carries no sugarcoating, no rehearsed lines, and no deliberate attempt to impress. Instead, it lands with a calm intensity that suggests something deeper: focus. To most, this can feel unfamiliar, even unnerving, because society has conditioned us to expect interaction laced with signals of approval or attraction. When those signals are absent, people search for meaning, wondering what is going on beneath the surface. Psychologists have long studied how humans rely on social cues, like eye contact, tone of voice, or even mirroring body language to interpret intentions. These cues are shortcuts that help us judge safety, interest, or connection. But when someone doesn't play by those rules, when they strip away charm or exaggeration, it can feel like being placed under a microscope. The Sigma male by nature doesn't rely on those performative signals. His silence or steady gaze is not an absence of emotion, but rather a form of evaluation. It is as though he is weighing more than just the words spoken. He is assessing intent, authenticity, and even the spaces between what is said. This kind of presence echoes what communication experts call active listening, a skill often praised but rarely mastered. Active listening requires more than hearing. It demands attention without interruption or distraction. Studies have shown that people who listen with full focus often create deeper trust and stronger bonds than those who constantly interject with affirmations or charm. Yet, paradoxically, in a culture addicted to fast responses and validation, true silence can feel uncomfortable. The Sigma's habit of listening with such intensity then is both powerful and misunderstood. History also offers examples of leaders and thinkers who used quiet observation to their advantage. Figures like Abraham Lincoln were known to sit silently during meetings, allowing others to speak freely while he carefully absorbed their words. When he finally responded, his insight carried weight precisely because it came after deliberate thought. In much the same way, the Sigma's quiet focus is not emptiness but preparation. His restraint unsettles only because it refuses to conform to the expectation of instant reassurance. For those who encounter this presence, the unease is less about the Sigma himself and more about the mirror he holds up. When stripped of the usual signs of charm, one must face the rawness of their own words and intentions. It is a reminder that true connection does not always need embellishment. Sometimes the quietest focus speaks the loudest. Number 4, they are unpredictably generous. Though Sigma males often guard their energy, time, and resources carefully when they choose to give, their generosity can feel extraordinary. It doesn't always come in the form of money or material possessions. Instead, it often appears as wisdom, presence, or unexpected acts of support. What makes this so striking is not only the depth of their giving, but also the way it arrives, sudden, unannounced, and without expectation of return. This unpredictability creates a sense of profound authenticity, almost as if their giving is an overflow of their inner reservoir rather than a calculated move. Psychologists studying altruism note that true generosity is rarely transactional. Many people help others with an unspoken hope of reciprocity, whether in favors, status, or emotional validation. Sigma males, however, often defy this pattern. Their independence shields them from the need for external approval, so when they offer help, it carries a purer quality. For instance, social science research highlights that individuals who are less motivated by social belonging tend to practice quiet altruism, a form of generosity where acts of kindness are carried out privately without desire for recognition. This lines up remarkably well with Sigma tendencies. They prefer their actions to speak without needing applause. Historically, some of the world's most impactful figures embodied this paradoxical generosity. Think of philosophers, inventors, and reformers who lived largely solitary lives but gave wisdom, ideas, or innovations that changed entire societies. Their personal worlds may have been guarded, even reclusive, yet what they poured out was deeply transformative. This echoes the Sigma pattern. They give from a place of inner clarity, often in disproportionate ways because their focus is less on personal gain and more on the intrinsic value of sharing. In everyday life, this can manifest in subtle but unforgettable ways. A Sigma male might lend a listening ear at a critical moment, offering perspective that changes the trajectory of someone else's decisions. He may step in with skills or guidance just when others least expect it. While his generosity might seem rare, it is also memorable, precisely because it is detached from expectation. Studies in behavioral economics suggest that humans remember outlier acts of kindness far longer than routine ones, making Sigma contributions linger in the hearts of those who receive them. This blend of restraint and sudden abundance creates a strange but profound effect. It feels like stepping into a hidden current, one that runs deep beneath the surface of ordinary interactions. Sigma males remind us that generosity, when it flows from authenticity rather than obligation, carries a power that ordinary giving often lacks. It is this rare quality that makes their contributions feel not only valuable but also unforgettable. Number 5, they detach from praise as easily as from criticism. Most men crave recognition. They look for validation in the applause of others, the compliments they receive, or even in the sting of criticism. These moments often act like fuel for their self-image, either inflating it or tearing it down, but the Sigma male relates to recognition differently. When praise comes his way, he absorbs it quietly. He lets it pass through him, acknowledges it without resistance, and then lets it go. When insults come, he treats them with the same attitude. Neither sticks for long, and both carry very little weight in shaping how he sees himself. To the outside world, this can feel unsettling. People expect reactions. They expect their compliments to boost you or their criticism to cut you. When neither lands, it removes the hooks that usually tangle egos together. This quality isn't just personality, it has roots in psychology and philosophy. Stoic thinkers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius taught that external opinions should never control one's peace of mind. Modern psychology echoes this, noting that individuals with high internal self-reliance tend to be less affected by external judgment. Unlike narcissists who thrive on admiration or insecure men who are crushed by rejection, the Sigma male finds stability in detachment. It's not that he doesn't hear the words spoken to him, it's that he doesn't give them power over his sense of self. He recognizes the fleeting nature of human opinion. A person who praises you today may criticize you tomorrow, and to build your identity on such shifting ground is to stand on sand. This way of moving through the world unnerves people. Most social interactions are built on a subtle exchange of ego strokes and emotional hooks. Compliment someone, and you expect warmth. Criticize someone and you expect defensiveness. But with a Sigma male, neither reaction reliably comes. Instead, he might nod, smile faintly, or remain completely neutral. That neutrality feels like a void to others. It breaks the usual rhythm of power dynamics. People realize their words cannot manipulate him into compliance or push him off balance. And in a society where so many relationships are built on validation loops, his calm detachment stands out like a glitch in the system. Interestingly, this trait also has a biological angle. Studies in neuroscience suggest that the brain's reward circuits are highly activated by social approval. Social media, for instance, thrives on this by giving people dopamine spikes through likes and comments, but the Sigma male seems to have trained himself or been wired to bypass much of that reward system. He doesn't crave constant reinforcement because his sense of identity is self-contained. Instead of depending on the fluctuating approval of others, he invests in personal mastery, solitude, and self-direction. That makes him harder to predict, harder to control, and paradoxically even more magnetic to those who don't understand why their influence doesn't sway him. Number 6, they have a strange relationship with silence. For many, silence is unsettling. It feels like a void that demands to be filled with chatter, music, or background noise. But for a Sigma male, silence is not emptiness, it is home. He doesn't rush to patch it up or escape it, because he sees silence not as an absence, but as a presence. In those still moments, he listens, observes, and simply rests. This calm detachment often makes his presence feel unusual, even mysterious to those around him. Silence has long been misunderstood in human society. Studies in psychology show that most people become uncomfortable with silence after just 4 seconds in a conversation. It triggers anxiety, awkwardness, or the urge to fill the space with words. Yet neuroscientists have discovered that silence can actually promote brain growth and relaxation. A 2013 study published in the journal Brain Structure and Function found that 2 hours of silence a day led to the development of new cells in the hippocampus, the brain region linked to memory, learning, and emotion. What most fear, Sigma males embrace, and it gives them an edge in clarity and self-control. For a Sigma, silence is not passive, it is an active state of awareness. In social situations, he doesn't mind letting pauses stretch because it gives him time to read people, notice details, and measure intentions. This ability to observe without distraction often makes him appear mysterious or even intimidating. Others may wonder what he is thinking, while he is simply absorbing the environment with quiet focus. Unlike those who perform for attention, the Sigma's value is found in what he doesn't say as much as in what he does. Culturally, silence has been revered across traditions. The Stoic philosophers taught that wisdom is found in restraint, that words lose their power if spoken without measure. In Japan, silence or ma is considered an art form, an intentional pause that gives meaning to sound, much like empty space shapes a painting. Indigenous traditions, too, often emphasize silence as a form of respect and deep listening. The Sigma male instinctively embodies these values, finding strength not in noise but in stillness. In a world addicted to speed and constant updates, the Sigma's comfort with silence becomes a rare kind of power. He is not afraid of pauses, not pressured by the demand to impress with endless words. His quiet presence unsettles some and inspires others, and it is precisely in those unspoken moments that his true strength emerges, the ability to remain grounded while the world around him rushes to fill the void. The Sigma male is not defined by how loudly he moves through the world, but by how quietly he shapes it. His unusual traits, his comfort with silence, his indifference to status, and his unpredictable generosity often make him appear puzzling at first glance. Yet, when observed closely, these traits point to a man who has found an inner balance that many struggle their entire lives to achieve. In modern psychology, this aligns with the idea of self-differentiation, the ability to stay true to oneself without being consumed by social expectations or external validation. In a society where volume and visibility are mistaken for influence, the Sigma challenges this narrative by embodying restraint. He doesn't withdraw from others because he dislikes them, but because solitude recharges him. This is consistent with studies on introverted personalities, which show that time alone restores energy and sharpens focus. Similarly, his rejection of praise isn't arrogance or coldness. It's an understanding of the fleeting nature of external approval. Neuroscience confirms that the brain's dopamine response to praise is temporary, which explains why those who rely on it often chase more, never fully satisfied. The Sigma, however, learns to anchor his worth internally, avoiding that endless cycle. His presence, whether in steady silence or through calm eye contact, often carries an intensity people can't explain. This isn't manipulation, it's authenticity. When a person is deeply aligned with their inner world, their nonverbal communication naturally conveys confidence and peace. Research in social psychology even shows that stillness and measured responses are often interpreted as signs of authority and strength, which explains why people gravitate toward him, even without effort. Perhaps the Sigma feels strange to others because he refuses to play the usual games of competition, attention-seeking, and control. By stepping outside of those systems, he creates his own. And in doing so, he quietly reminds us that the strangest traits are often just rare ones, and that maybe in noticing them, we should reflect on our own way of moving through the world.